Hey there everybody, welcome to the first official installment of Indie Corner. Today we're going to be taking a look at an indie mod for Arma II, and that quite simply is DayZ. So, the first thing that needs to be answered is, why the hell am I not doing Project Zomboid for my first episode of Indie Corner? Bro, I'm at this, you lie. Well, due to the hellish amount of delays that game has seen lately, I've shelved that idea and that episode for a later date. I want to see the release of the game first, or at least 2.0.r, yeah, I said that right. When that comes out, then I'll worry about it. Now the actual question. What the hell is DayZ? This is gonna be a complicated answer. Well, first let's go with the short answer. DayZ is an Arma II mod that creates a zombie survival simulation. Simple, right? Now for the long one. DayZ is a first-person, third-person tactical shooter, zombie apocalypse, survival RPG simulation, open-world, emergent story game that happens to be a mod of a 3-year-old game. Yeah. Right. Okay, I guess I should explain. So, just like Project Zomboid, DayZ tries its damnedest to shove you forcefully into an open world where zombies are king. Your job is literally to survive as long as you can. But it's not as easy as it might sound. This is no, quick, give me my gun, let me shoot them fuckers game. You will need to scavenge for food, water, weapons, amongst many other things. This game is deep and complicated. Do you see a wild boar in the woods? A few questions might come to mind if you do. First, and most importantly, do I use my precious ammo to kill it? Am I safe and far away enough for no zombies to hear me? If I do kill it, do I have a knife to take the oh-so-precious meat from its bones? If yes, then do I have the wood and matches to start a fire and cook that meat? Do you risk doing all of this on your own, or do you find friends who can help you out? See where I'm kind of going with this? This game is deep, like Debbie Does Dallas deep. The game world is huge, 225 kilometers squared, if I read that exactly correct. It's like a small city-state. It's like a small city-state or something. You can break bones, start to bleed out, go into shock from pain, pass out from pain or blood loss, fade in and out of consciousness and more. And I'm sure a lot of you are asking what the difference is between this and Project Zomboid outside of its perspective angles. And it'd be completely reasonable of you to do so, since both games are trying to do similar things. Alright, let's get down to the differences between these two very similar games. Well, the first one's pretty simple. Perspective. This is perhaps the easiest thing to show and explain. Simply put, one is an isometric top-down view game, and one is a third/first-person shooter type of game. Simple enough, and I think you guys can figure it out. The second pretty big difference is its world size. DayZ's world is massive, as I stated earlier. It will take you hours to get from one end of the map to the other, and that's assuming you can even survive that long without being killed off by another player or a zombie horde. Project Zomboid's map, by comparison, is tiny. That's not to say that the map is small by any means, but something you need to keep in mind is that DayZ is a mod of a pre-existing game. It does not need to start from scratch like Project Zomboid does, and the Indie Stone have done an amazing job so far with what they've created. This mod already has its groundwork built for it. It has its map. The third difference is actually one that could make or break the game for a lot of people. It's zombie speed. Now, it really depends on how into zombie quote-unquote lore you are and what you believe is right and wrong. But the difference here is that Project Zomboid has quote-unquote walkers, while DayZ has runners. For a number of reasons, it makes sense. The biggest one is that the game, in its current state, would be way too easy with walking zombies. The third and first-person shooter genre for now benefits with faster zombies. It ups the difficulty, it makes it harder to survive. Imagine a horde of 10 or 11 zombies walking at you in a giant open field. It'd be pretty easy to get away. Now, with that said, do I think they should all be running? That's a debate up for a discussion in a later time. For now, since this is an alpha, the runners work really well, for the most part. Now, the fourth, in my opinion, the biggest difference between the two games. The difference is that DayZ is a multiplayer-focused game. It has servers. It's meant to be played with other people and actually can be played in no other way. Each server can hold about approximately 50 players, give or take the server, which is a great number on this size map, mind you. Players are just scarce enough to be a threat, but not anywhere near big enough or numerous enough to being a constant threat everywhere. And I think it works really well. It still maintains that feeling of loneliness throughout the game, while still knowing that there are people out there that could help or kill your things, or take your things. Project Zomboid, on the other hand, multiplayer will be in the future, they've stated. But Zomboid will be a single-player-centric game, focused on a single-person story, not having to worry about other people kill you, and more about fighting up against the game itself. So, next I want to kind of head towards the positives and negatives of this game by itself. No comparison to Project Zomboid or anything else, just DayZ. And I'm just going to be talking about it just a little bit, so let's get down to it, and I always like to start on a downer. Let's start with the negatives. The first thing I would call a negative, easily. This game is in alpha. This particular negative covers hundreds of tiny little things. Things like random game crashes, certain features not implemented, disconnections and the like. It's bound to be part of any game in alpha, but it's worth noting. Not enough people understand this when they decide to play a game and pay for it in alpha. There are going to be things that are going to break. The developers are going to put in code that is literally going to break the game just for the sake of testing something. So if you plan on picking this game up, understand this. The second negative is zombie speed. Yeah, relax. I know I said I like the fact that they're fast. Shut it, I get it. But there's a difference between fast and being the Flash. These zombies are goddamn insanely fast, and they move erratically to boot, making it friggin' difficult to shoot them as they run at you. Try shooting the Flash while he's taking a jog at you in a zigzag pattern. Let me know how that works out. I think this is one of the very first things that needs to be addressed very quickly in this game. I know the zombies are supposed to be difficult. I know them being fast is supposed to make it really hard to kill. But this is just something that I think the developer needs to just kind of put a little bit of time into and to kind of solidify its position in the game. It needs to kind of be tweaked a bit. The negative number 3 is exploits, particularly actually the disconnect reconnect exploit. There is a little exploit in the game where if you basically Alt F4 during a firefight with another player, you can exit the game and they can't kill you. They'll be shooting you, but you'll just disconnect. It'll say you disconnect and you'll disappear. Then you just gotta wait about 30 minutes before coming back, and bam! The person that was killing you is now gone. No need to worry about losing that gun that you fought for. And this just needs to somehow be taken care of. It defeats the purpose of the game. Yes, I know it sucks losing hours of progress, and I know you don't want to lose that gun that you worked so hard for, just to be shot in the face and it to be taken away from you. Who's to say that they haven't been working for hours too, and that they just caught you at a bad moment? You die, you start a new character, you live, you learn your lesson, you become more aware, and you evolve as a player and move on. It's all part of how awesome that this mod is. So it needs to be taken care of basically as fast or as hard as possible. The fourth of the negatives is that this game is complicated. Like learning how to drive a plane complicated. The controls take a ton of getting used to, and if you're anything like I am, then you will try and go into it thinking that this is a game that will handle like any other PC shooter. Wrong answer, sir! The inventory is complicated as hell, as just a small example. And to make it more realistic, it takes time to put things in your inventory. It takes time to open your backpack and take things out of your backpack. Jumping is a totally different button than the usual spacebar, and it's not your typical jump. Changing weapons is bound to totally different keys. There are different chats you can use that you need to switch between back and forth if you want to talk to people via microphone. It just takes getting used to, and that's one of the hardest things about this game. The final negative that I want to talk about with this mod is that you actually must buy Arma II. In order to even play this modification, this game in itself, so to speak, you must own Arma II and all of it in total, meaning the core game and its expansion Operation Arrowhead. It goes for $30 on Steam, and then you have to go to dayzmod.com, download the mod, all the proper files, and manually install it yourself. So is that worth $30? I almost said $30, but $30. That's up to you. I mean, I can tell you that I, for one, did it, and I'm happy with the purchase, but I list it as a negative because it's $30 for a mod that you're not even sure you're going to like, and it's definitely up in the air whether it's worth it or not. Again, I purchased it, and I'm happy with it. Alright, so let's get to the good stuff. Enough of that whining about how terrible this game is. Let's get to the really good shit. The first positive. Bam. This game is complicated. Yes, it's also a positive, believe it or not. It makes this game insanely realistic. From broken bones to blood loss, I love that this game encapsulates, the perils of being in a true zombie apocalypse. And if the news is anything to go by, Florida is the first state to have a zombie outbreak. Go take a look. But you best use this game as a training simulation as well, then. Alright, second great thing. Gunplay. The gunplay is tight, it's responsive as hell, and it feels damn good to shoot something. To top it off, having sparse ammo throughout the map makes it even more exciting and exhilarating when you decide to finally fire your weapon and take down that roaming Zed that's in between you and a bucket of flares. It's great, and I love how responsive the gunplay is. It's realistic, it's not an arcade shooter like Call of Duty. So yes, I love the gunplay, and I think it's definitely one of the strongest aspects of this game. The third positive is the atmosphere. It's killer. The ambient noises to the music and the zombie moans, the game just nails it. I can't count the number of times I've stopped in my tracks because I swore I heard something in the woods, standing motionless, waiting for whatever it was to come out, be it zombie or player. And it typically ends up being nothing, which is the best goddamn part. Another thing, this game just gets 100% right. The feeling of loneliness, of being scared, of always being on the brink of death is just great. The fourth positive I'm going to list here is straight up multiplayer. This is how a zombie apocalypse game should feel like. Like you're one of a few alive and everyone is a threat. You could see an airfield way in the distance. About 5 to 6 walkers are just roaming. You lay in wait. You're planning your route in to loot whatever is left. And suddenly a person pokes out and angers all of the walkers by firing off his gun. Then you have to decide, do you save him? Do you let him die? Do you maybe take a pot shot at him to kill him and make sure the zombies feast on his corpse? That's just part of the awesomeness of that this game is in being a multiplayer game, which leads me straight into number 5. And number 5 is just that, the emergent story. This is the best part, and most every open world game has this, yes, I know, but I've been wanting this particular one for so many years. An open world zombie apocalypse RPG where there's no set story, there is no cure. What happens between you and another player is going to unfold in real time and change as you make your decisions in real time. You and that person must make decisions to shoot each other, stand, move, communicate, work together, leave on your separate ways, help each other, trade items. It's amazing that these stories can just come out of this game on such a basic alpha playthrough, on such a basic setup. And that's amazing, and that's what I want out of a zombie apocalypse simulation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to bring us to the end of my very first episode of Indie Corner. So, I leave it up to you viewers. Do you think this game is worth it? Is this something you want to play? I've listed what I think are the great aspects and the worst aspects, the negative aspects of this game. And I leave that decision in your hand. All this talking is just to basically inform you. So I'm going to leave you folks with one simple question. Would you buy this game?